Arezu, I just want to ask you, who were you before the you that you are now?
Well, as my teacher would say, we're always being reborn with every breath. So I'm constantly changing. It's the only constant that we have. But we met in Tulum, and that was a really beautiful new chapter in my life where I left the city life from Los Angeles, where I was born and raised. I left the masculine, hustling, go, go, go mentality that I was so deeply ingrained in that became just my norm. And I took a conscious effort, a leap of faith to connect more to my divinity, to my essence, to my ability to just receive. And who I was then was very successful, but due to endless effort and work and chasing and going. And who I am now is still very successful, but from a place of ease, of grace, of acceptance, of surrender, of letting things flow. And I am so very grateful to be doing life in this new way because it just allows me to fill up my cup. One of my biggest transitions and changes was redefining the word selfish. I never allowed myself to receive. I found that it was selfish if I went to get a massage or if I did things that were self care based. And moving to Tulum with so many incredible treatments and healers, I started really taking care of this vessel of myself and giving from that place of fullness. And that's also been a big shift is taking time for myself, prioritizing myself, honoring myself, and not feeling bad about it or thinking that it's selfish to do so.
Mm, so beautiful. So you mentioned success. So I would love to dive into that just a little bit. What was your definition of success then versus now?
So my family's from Iran. I'm Persian, Jewish. I have um, so much cultural love around me, but also cultural pressure. And so I would say the societal cultural pressure was about monetary success. And although I grew up in yoga, I was so blessed with parents that introduced me to meditation when I was 5, yoga when I was 7, and it became so much a part of my life. After going to George Washington University and deciding to really commit to this purpose, to my path and teaching yoga full time, I was met with so much resistance. I was met with, like, how could you do this? You need to be a doctor, a lawyer, all of this that a lot of us from Asian communities or just anywhere, we can relate to that pressure of what we're meant to do to achieve success. And so that kind of motivated me to prove to them that I can be successful by doing what I love. And so my
Mm,
Kundalini yoga teacher, Guru Singh, would always say, if you love your work, you'll never work another day in your life. And that resonated so deeply with me. And that was my driving force every day. I was like, I love what I do. This doesn't feel like work. Even now, I have a hard time remembering to bill people, to send invoices, because it just is what I would do anyways, no matter what this financial gain would. And so at the time, success was proving to them that I can make X amount per class, X amount per month, and therefore I'm successful. And I did that. And I reached a point that I was like, is this really success? I'm exhausted. And, my one of my family members is very wealthy, and he always was really giving my father a hard time about how did I choose yoga? I'm such an educated person. And one day I was with him and I was like, yeah, I just got invited. I'm teaching a retreat on a yacht, sailing through Croatia. And then I'm teaching a corporate company, getting paid $1,000, for an hour session. And I just saw his like jaw drop. And even though he's this extremely well known, wealthy man, he was like, you did something right. Like, you are doing so well. And although that's kind of made it worthwhile in the success of the physical world, I knew that my soul was longing for a deeper success. And so when I say the success that I have now, it means that I literally am choosing how often do I want to teach? What clients, like people might say they want to work with me. I sit with it. I say, like, is this in the most divine alignment for me to them, for them to me, or do I refer them elsewhere? I'm delegating more. The old me was all about like, I can do it. I can do everything. It's doable. There's nothing I can't do. And this new me is all about delegating. And it's like, if it's not my specialty, there's so many other people that are amazing at what they do. And how can I now outsource that? And my time is my most valuable asset. So it's really, for me, success is how much time do I have with myself? How much time do I wake up with and not racing around? And that allows me to create time for community, for friends, for family, to really be present. For me, success is also being present, putting my phone away when I'm around loved ones or I'm at an event, and just being there in the moment, being in the now is success. Having freedom right now, I'm in the middle of Turkey having this session with you, and it's like, wow, that's success to me, that I can be somewhere, anywhere in the world, and still have the opportunity to connect, to share, to bring inspiration. And I don't have to be like in a cubicle in a 9 to 5 and feel like I'm in this cycle that I'm not getting to be myself and live life to the fullest.
Mm, I love that. I love that. So when you were kind of making the transition, let's say, what were some of the biggest obstacles or struggles that you remember having to overcome, and how did you identify them in order to overcome them?
Hmm. So some of my biggest obstacles was, like I said, the go, go, go part of me, that needs to always be doing something. And I'm very aware of it. I am quite the spiritual junkie. So for so much of my life, I've been obsessing over like what are the areas that I can do better at. And so by moving to Tulum, I was like, how can I slow my life down? What are things that I can take out of my planner, out of my journal, and deliberately make an active decision to do less? Um, I know people like you and others that are doing even more of an amazing job with that. So when I see you guys are like, but you're still doing a million things. But I'm like, if only you knew me before, it's such a progress. So, for example, like scheduling in ocean swims, scheduling in playtime, scheduling that in helped me with my like go 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 scheduling mentality, because I'm still kind of keeping things scheduled, but I'm also making it like this is a non-negotiable. This is a time that I have for myself. And that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to talking about, which is sadhana. It's been a daily part of my life, but making sure that that morning routine is always there. So, a lot of times clients, when I was younger, they'd want to do a 7 a.m. yoga session before they go to work. And I'd be like, okay, sure. Like always saying yes. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. And when I moved to Tulum, it was like my calendar availability starts from 9:30 onwards. And if that doesn't work for you, like here's another yoga teacher that can teach you at 7 a.m. And that was again honoring myself, my morning practice, knowing that like I realistically am not going to wake up at 5 a.m. to do my morning practice to teach at 7. So what do I need to do to be truthful to myself, to honor myself so that I can then honor the others that I'm serving?
Mm, yeah, I love that. And that's, you mentioned selfishness before, and honoring the self, and I feel like it's kind of two sides of the same coin, and I love to look at it as this idea of um like a noble sense of self firstness, and that's just like filling our cup, right? So that when we do show up for others, we can show up fully. So um
Yeah,
can you speak
self
to
first.
that just a little bit more, for those that maybe are still in that frame of mind that, no, if I like, I've got a family and I've got a spouse and I've got to make sure that they're taken care of first. Um, any words of wisdom that you would share with them to be like, actually, it's not selfish for you to take care of yourself first, and then you can tend to your family.
Yeah, so another one of my obstacles is this people pleasing part of me. This part of me that has to be the therapist for everyone, that has to take care of everyone. I put so much pressure on myself. And I love my parents so, so much. But as an only child and witnessing them go through the divorce, I really like took them on and became like caretakers and would sacrifice myself to make sure that they were well and almost like their own mother. And I realized but at the end of the day, like that, as much as it was from a good heart, I end up resenting. Like it creates a resentment. And so, what I would say to others that are like trying to take care of their family and their friends, or anyone, as much as what you're doing is selfless in that moment, it's only going to burn you later on, and you're going to regret them. You're going to create grudges and resentments because you're going to be like, oh, well, if I hadn't done that, I could have been more in a calm place. I've noticed, like, that's coming from my own experience. And so I don't want to get myself to that point, because we are the co creators of our reality. There's no one I can blame. It's my own conscious action. So the more I do sadhana, the more I pause, the more I'm consciously aware of this moment, the more I'll make decisions from that conscious place. And for me, the people pleasing part was also a major thing, like saying yes because I think I'm just trying to please everyone else. But, that quote that we've all heard is like, saying no to others is really saying yes to ourselves. And just letting that sit with us, like, wow, if by saying no to you, even though I wish I could, and even though I wish there was more time that I could, I'm going to say no, because that means I'm respecting myself. I am honoring myself. And so the next time an opportunity arises, maybe something even greater is going to show up, and then I can say yes to it. Because I had said no before, and I created an opportunity. I created a place that it's like, I know my worthiness, and I don't need to just say yes. A lot of times, especially with yoga teachers or anyone that's starting their own business, it's like you want to say yes to everything, because it's almost this lack mentality of like, there's not enough. And I've been so blessed to realize there's more than enough to go around. There's more wealth, there's more love, there's just an unconditional reservoir of it. And so, not coming from that lack mindset or that scarcity mindset, and realizing, even if I say no to this amazing opportunity and say yes to myself, God, the universe, source, light, whatever you want to call it, is going to actually reward me and bless me with an even greater opportunity.
Mm, I love that. It's so important to set these loving boundaries, and say, and even like be really present, and again, I think the old mentality is this idea that I think very few people are truly in the present moment. We're either thinking about the future or worried about the past or vice versa, and so to be able to be in the present moment and truly kind of check in with yourself and ask, hey, do I want to do this thing, or will I be in self-sacrifice? And is this loving to me first? And am I in a place where I can actually step into this fully, whatever the situation is? Or am I in self sacrifice, or am I doing it just to people please, or, that sort of thing? So, this idea of setting up these loving boundaries,
Yeah,
I think is
even
really,
maybe
really important.
setting up a checklist for yourself. Like, if you know that that's one of your tendencies, like, what can you do to help yourself? Like, run through a checklist and say, like, and go through all of them. And if you find that you check all the boxes, then say yes. And if you feel like, okay, no, there's things on here that I'm actually doing otherwise. So it's like, just knowing ourselves helps us so much. Like, if I know these are my setbacks, then they become they push me forward, because now I'm
Mm,
using them to be my momentum, my fuel, rather than dragging me down.
mm, absolutely. And you mentioned knowing ourselves. So, for again, for those that are maybe haven't done the spiritual journey, or um, and they might kind of question that, or respond, of course I know myself, and oftentimes I'll pose this to clients, do you know everything that you think you know, or do you only think you know it? Do you actually know it? Have you done the exploration? So for anybody who's out there who's watching this, kind of like, yeah, of course I know myself, but they don't really. They haven't done, that internal work, and maybe they're out of balance in their lives. They're, again, maybe they're peak performing with money, but their relationships or their health, or even with regards to the money they're making, they're not very fulfilled in their lives. So what would you say to them in terms of truly coming to know themselves and truly coming into a place of balance and peak performance in every area of life?
So there's so many things that are coming in while you ask that. So I'm gonna have many parts to respond. The first part I wanted to touch on was what we talked about before, the success that I achieved more in the material world and now focusing on maybe more spiritual success. And now that both feel like they're balanced, coming to the middle part and like, what does it look like to walk the middle path? And I think so much of us can be so spiritual successful, but it's like that stereotype of the yogi that's like living out of a hut and doesn't have the financial wealth to take care of themselves, or it's the top CEO that has so much wealth but doesn't have the love and happiness and peace inside of themselves. And so these are two polar opposites. And how can we find that middle ground that walks in the middle of that? And so that's really where my new definition of success is the spiritual, like the spiritual success and the financial success, material world success. And recently, I have like a conscious spiritual CPA who does like my taxes for me, and we were going over the tax year for this upcoming year. And she was saying something, I don't remember exactly, and I was like, well, I've been so successful this year, and I'm living my dream life, and everything. And she like stopped me. She's like, well, actually, you're not really that successful. You have to do this, and you have this. And she kind of was giving me tough love, but in that moment, she's like, what makes you think you're successful? And she genuinely like, she works with maybe millionaires, and I'm not there. But then I started telling her, I'm like, I wake up every day absolutely loving my life. What more could I want? Like, to me, that is success. And she was just like silent, and she was like, yep, okay, that works. And so I think it's just so funny because even as like this spiritual money coach that's supposed to help you, like here she is like trying to just look at numbers, and yeah, maybe from a numbers perspective I could be way more wealthy, but if I don't want to sacrifice that. I wake up every day so grateful, and that to me is success. So that was just
Mhm.
coming through, and I wanted to share that because don't not allowing the pressure of outside people to tell us like you're not successful. Only you get to decide that. And by being
Mhm.
so sure of myself in that moment, like I didn't even like feel like I wasn't even defensive. It was just such a known fact that I am absolutely successful. And it just felt
Mm.
so reassuring. So I wanted to pass that forward to anyone listening to this, that if you love your life and if you have freedom and you XYZ, whatever defines success for you, because it's different, our values could be different, then you get to say, yes, I am successful. And of course, we're going to have goals. And of course, we're going to have areas that we're working towards. But being content, being grateful for exactly what we have in this moment allows that to expand. So the more content I am, the more grateful I am, that's going to magnify it. And I already forgot your
Mm.
question.
It's so beautiful. Um, it was how do people identify that and then make that shift in their
Oh,
life
right.
to
Yeah.
like peak
You were
performance in
asking
every
like
area?
how to really know themselves, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I heard, it's like a pyramid, right? There's information all around us endlessly, like sometimes too much. We're inundated with information. But what happens is like when we're reading a book, that becomes knowledge. And by reading it, we internalize it into the knowingness. We understand the knowledge. And then from that knowingness, we imbibe it, we become it. And so for me, that is the journey of taking information into becoming. And we live in a world full of preachers, full of talkers, less practicing, less walking of the talk. And so to truly know yourself is to walk your talk, is to practice what you're preaching, is to only talk from a place of genuine, authentic transparency, not just because you heard something and you're regurgitating it, or you're trying to fit in, or you want to prove yourself, but what is true to you in this exact moment. And that's when you know yourself. When you don't care if, like, just yesterday, someone was asking me, why did I stop drinking alcohol? And I was like, I don't like XYZ. And I said, as a yoga teacher who's telling you to honor your body as a temple, like who would I be to be like tugging down shots, getting drunk, putting toxicity in my body? It wouldn't align. There's not integrity in that. So to truly know myself means, yeah, I lost a lot of friends when I told them like I don't drink anymore because they didn't feel comfortable hanging out at night. That's not my problem. Those were friends that I never needed to have in my life. And it was because I truly know who I am that I'm not going to allow that to affect me. Yeah, I'm human. Maybe it hurt for the first few days, but then it was like I don't regret this decision. I know who I am, I know my decisions, and I'm actually grateful that it's filtering out the people that I don't need in my life, right? So it's really coming into a place of the quality that we have around us rather than the quantity. I think so much of the city life I had in Los Angeles was like to prove by quantity of your friendships rather than the quality. And by coming to Tulum and moving into nature, really honoring the sum of the five people around me being selective. And that comes back to selfish versus self first. I'm putting myself first, and then I'm also being very selective of what are the events I'm going to, what are the type of people I spend my time with. Because again, our time is valuable, our energy is so valuable. And if we're just constantly just like letting it all out everywhere, we're taking that in as well. So I think, again, divergent, but to know yourself is to respect yourself, is to know the good and the bad. Like I always say, I know myself so well that there's nothing you could say that I don't already know about me. Like I know my flaws, I know my shadows. And so there's so many people that love to talk, and they will talk about me, and that's okay because I'm not going to take it so hurtful because I already know myself so well. There's nothing you could say that's going to hurt me, you know? And so I think
Mhm.
to know yourself is not just the positive, but the parts that you're working on as well, and accept that. How can you be in acceptance with yourself in this very moment exactly as you are?
How does someone know themselves, though? How does someone
How to
come to know themselves?
self contemplation, self introspection, really carving out time to look within. And if you're new to the journey, it can be so challenging to do it on your own. And I think finding a mentor, a therapist, a healer, someone that can kind of guide you and point you, and then you do the work. You look within, and you get to really sit with yourself. And that's something I can't wait to talk about the morning sadhana practice. You know, the more you sit with yourself, the more I'm running an online program right now, and this past week we gave everybody the homework assignment to do mirror work. And just today, I was reading people's messages that they're like, "It's so hard for me." Like I looked in the mirror and I tried to say "I love you," but I said it so quickly. And to know yourself is to look in the mirror and say, "I love you." It sounds so simple, but you'd be amazed out of all these people doing this course, how so many are really challenged with that. And so we live in a
Mhm.
world where we're just constantly being told we have to look this way, we have to perform this way, we have to do this. And to simply like look at ourselves in the mirror and create a conversation with who's looking back at you. And to me, that's a great way to start to know yourself, is to create
Mhm.
that inner dialogue. And if it's too hard to sit in meditation, then sit in front of the mirror and start to talk to that person that you see smiling back at you.